being a female in a male-dominated sport in the 90s, and obviously action sports was very masculine, kind of aggressive sport, and many of the companies and the brands were marketing towards men, not women. But the women, not me alone, but the women that were in it competing or pushing the sport at that time really helped shift that. And honestly, because there were fewer women and the industry was starting to accept that women were buying product and that there was a market there and there was money to be made, there were fewer women overall that were at that level, sponsored and good brand ambassadors. So I had a lot of opportunity. It took me years to figure out that people were getting paid to snowboard. But once I started to taste that opportunity, I handled it like a business out of necessity because I knew I had bills to pay. And if I were going to live on a couch or have a bedroom in someone else's house, that was going to cost money.
Welcome to Unbound. Conversations about what happens when the version of you that made you successful is no longer enough. I'm Lori Darley, and I work with high performers, athletes, executives, creators who are facing the question, who am I when I'm not that anymore? Because success doesn't prepare you for what comes next. Today's conversation is about discovering who you are beyond what you do. Welcome. My guest today is someone whose name you might not know, but if you have ever strapped yourself into a snowboard, you felt her influence. Barrett Christy Cummins spent 30 years at the top of action sports. She was on the U.S. Olympic team, and she is an X Games legend. And ESPN put her in the top 20 riders of all time. She's no slouch. She was the first woman ever to have a Nike signature shoe. And then she went on to build the industry from the other side, shaping brands, signing the next generation of Olympic champions. And here's why I wanted to have her on this show. She's not standing at the finish line, and she's certainly not starting over. She is living in the both and. Still a force in the sport she helped shape and building something new in financial education. She is truly in the middle of it, and she's fully committed to both at the same time. So that's the part nobody talks about. Not the clean handoff from one life to the next, but the real thing, holding two callings at once, with both hands firmly on the wheel and refusing to let go of either. To top it off, Barrett is incredibly humble. She's so grounded, and she is absolutely the real thing. Barrett, welcome.
Thank you, Lori. That was so sweet. I love hearing people tell my history because you're better at it than me.
I think that's probably goes for most of us, right? We get a little shy. So, I got to just let the audience in on something. I have been introduced to Barrett through an organization that we both belong to. And there were the usual accolades given. And I was like, wow, Barrett sounds like somebody I'd really like to meet. And so, those things are running. I heard she was an Olympian. I mean, like, ho-hum, not really. But then I watched so many videos of her yesterday, jumping off of mountains, being in commercials and jumping off buildings. And I got to tell you, my experience of Barrett and my deep respect and admiration for her just absolutely blossomed. So, Barrett, I'm so happy you're here. And I want you to take me back to the version of you that was dropping into a half pipe in front of the world. Who was that person?
Yeah, I'm a little scared when people say they were digging up old videos because there are some questionable ones out there snowboarding. But
I'm afraid that there might be of me too.
that version of me, I am so proud of her because she didn't know where she was going, what she was doing, or where it was going to lead to, right? I was leaning into something I felt passionate about, that I was drawn to the sport of snowboarding. I wanted to get better at it. I wanted to continue to improve. I wanted to be competitive because that's how we level up our performance or our own abilities is through competition. That worked well for me. But that person was, I think I did really well considering I didn't necessarily have a healthy mindset around it. And looking back, I can't believe some of the things I accomplished when I had a very, I would say, almost unhealthy attitude that I just sucked at it. Like I was not good enough. I was not where I wanted to be. And along the way, I had some good mentors and coaches, if you will, although they weren't technically real structured coaching programs then. But I found my way, and even by bashing my own ability, I did manage to get better and reach a level that at the time was towards the top. I know how much goes into being that elite competitor now, and mindset is such a big part of it. And I wish I maybe had taken a little different approach with my own mindset as a competitor.
Man, well, isn't that true of all of us in our early 20s and late teens? And, we all kind of wake up into this negative self-talk and we think it's all about us. But you manage to dial it down long enough, it sounds like, to actually let your passion really come out and play. So, kudos to you for that, because a lot of people actually pay more attention to that conversation than you do. So
I'm paying attention to it now because of the work I've been doing, but so maybe that was a little introspective, but honestly, like it was so fun. And the reason I was passionate about it is because it was really fun, and snowboarding was not taken as seriously then. And even though we had the opportunity to go to the Olympics, it wasn't really an Olympic sport, and there wasn't as much structure.
really,
So it was fun, and we were defining it as we went along and, creating our own path within the sport.
yeah, I was thinking about that myself, just in terms of I didn't really quite understand how significant your time at that particular time. You came up in an era with no blueprint, no structure, no playbook. And so, who did you have to become to not only survive that, but to flourish as well?
I really liked it. I was a competitive gymnast as a kid, and I played field hockey and lacrosse, and I knew team sports, and finding snowboarding as an individual sport gave me the opportunity to be creative and push it as hard as I wanted, or not hard sometimes. And so, I mean, leaned on my competitive experience, but there was no structure. And so that's what I really liked about it. And I think I
Yeah.
already lost track of your question.
No, well, what I'm hearing you say is that the lack of structure probably gave you the freedom to test your edges, right? And if you had been operating in somebody else's box, then, you may have limited yourself even more than your own internal conversation was doing you not the favor of.
Yeah,
But
true.
yeah, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So I just gotta, when I was watching you fly through the air, as a dancer, I just have such an appreciation of the kind of center that you have to hold in moments like that. And you described one particular move that you made, and you were like, I had your shoulder over here, and your head was back here, and your legs were up in the air, and it made me think, like, I just saw a documentary on Pink, and she was flying across an arena on wires, right? But she had safety. You didn't have a safety net. So what was your practice that had you be able to really find that, I'll say, still center in the midst of all that chaos going around and round your brain and body and wind?
The program then was very different than it is now. But that's why there's so much progression now, in part because there are safe places to try things without throwing it down on an icy slope. And we did not have airbags. And, I had trampolines I could jump around on, and my
Oh,
gymnastics background helped, I think, with my balance and, my centered ability to center.
yeah.
But it really was trial by error, and there were a lot of injuries and a lot of bumps and bruises along the way.
Were there? Was
Yeah,
there
there
one that
were.
that you
Yeah.
particularly remember?
Well,
Not to
yeah,
bring you
but
down or anything.
honestly, the worst injuries were when I was least expecting it, not when I was really pushing it and trying something I'd never done. It was when I was no longer paying attention, or, getting too comfortable and losing
Mm.
focus,
Oh,
or just riding down the hill at the end of a run.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I think that's what happens when we take our eyes off the focus and the goal, and we're no longer focused on something. Then it's the unexpected that can take us out. But the 90s were just like, I feel so blessed that I got into it at the right time, because we could, progress the sport to a certain level without really without the intensity that the athletes are competing in today. Even though they do have tools and they do have training and they do have more facilities to practice, and, at least off the snow, to dial in their
Hmm.
tricks, I wouldn't trade it in for the world. I'm glad we did it the way we did it, and
Yeah.
we were not the jumps weren't as big, the tricks weren't as consequential, and we took it as far as we could, and then I'm glad I got out without any major health
Yeah. Yeah.
injuries.
Oh my gosh. I am too. I'm really happy about that. I am curious though, what were the issues of that era that maybe got under your skin a bit as both an athlete and a woman?
Well, I get asked this question a lot, just being a female in a male dominated sport in the
Yep.
90s. And, like, obviously, action sports was very masculine, kind of aggressive sport. And many of the companies and the brands were marketing towards men, not women. But we, the women, not me alone, but the women that were in it competing, or, pushing the sport at that time, really helped shift that. And honestly, because there were fewer women and the industry was starting to accept that women were buying product, and that, there was a market there and there was money to be made, there were fewer women overall that were at that level, sponsored and, you know, good brand ambassadors. So I had a lot of opportunity, and I don't feel like again, it was timing. The other people had done the work to get us to that point before I stepped in, and there were a lot of us doing the work and pushing the sport at that time, a lot of women, but a lot of brands were looking for female ambassadors that could help them sell this product that they knew there was an opportunity for in the market. And I'm glad I got to play a role in that, but it also offered a lot of opportunities to me at a
Hmm.
time when maybe some of my male counterparts, who were also extremely talented, may not have had those opportunities. So it
Yeah.
was an advantage in some ways, but it was also pretty disgusting how a lot of the brands were marketing the women's product. If they weren't using the athletes, they were posing girls in bikinis and
Yeah.
making them look hot in order
The
to.
Sports Illustrated front covers, man. Those were the days.
I mean,
At least in the 90s, they were a little bit of an upgrade from the 80s. But what's highlighting here and for our listeners is that your awareness of this sport as a business. And I'm curious, whereabouts were you when you realized, first of all, you have to, who's going to pay your way to all these exotic places and mountaintops that you have to, you don't just go camping at the side of a mountain, unless maybe you did. But, when did it occur to you that, first of all, there's money to be made, but that also you have to be kind of intelligent and discerning as you're moving through this sport as a woman, but also as a business leader?
was not snowboarding as a kid. I didn't have anything handed to me. I was already out of the house supporting myself when I started snowboarding. So at the age of 19, I was learning how to snowboard. And then, you know, really, it wasn't instant. I didn't just get really good right away. I feel like I put in a few years. And at the time, after a few years, I was able to test my ability and compete a little bit, but also move myself to a place where people were a lot better than me and I could learn from them by just spending time with them. I did not I did not take for granted that snowboarding was expensive and that I had to any little bit I could get, whether it was a free board, a free sweatshirt, any type of free gear was really valuable to me because I was working, I was going to school, I knew the alternative. I knew I could continue to wait tables or wash dishes or bus tables or whatever job I could get that gave me the time to ride during the day. And also there was
Yeah.
school for a little while there. I knew how hard it was to work for the dollars and to afford the opportunity to snowboard. So when
Yeah.
when sponsorship money started coming into the picture, I had no idea. I mean, it took me years to figure out that people were getting paid to snowboard and it wasn't just to go win a prize on a weekend or free board. But but once I started to taste that opportunity, I handled it like a business out of necessity because I knew I had bills to pay. And if I were going to live on a couch or have a bedroom in someone else's house, that was going to cost money. and and living
Right, right.
in a resort costs money. I mean, even if you are a local in Vail Resorts, it's expensive. And we did it best we could in the 90s, and we had a lot of opportunities to freeload in different places, but
I bet.
it still costs money. And
Lot right, yeah, probably a lot of fun roommate,
yeah,
mischief and all kinds of things. I got such a sense of the camaraderie
yeah,
that you shared with the other women and just really appreciated that. Do you remember your first offer?
I
Major
do
offer?
because I really set the bar low and offer meaning for dollars, but my very first sponsor was LibTech, GNU Snowboards, LibTech. The company is made in the same manufacturing facility and run by the same people and still is today. And they were
Yeah.
the first ones. The local rep gave me a board out of his fleet and said, I think you're really good. You should ride this. Let me know what you think. And, maybe you should take it to a bigger area, which at the time I was in Crested Butte, and he encouraged me to go to Summit County where all the pros were, where the contests were happening, and you know, just offered me that encouragement by giving me a board, by believing in me, knowing that I really didn't have a lot of experience, but he saw some strengths that he thought, well, this is a great representative to have on the board. And just having somebody believe in me was my first
Yeah.
sponsor. And they did
Yeah.
create opportunities to go ride with other people and to learn from other people just by inviting me on trips. Granted, I was sleeping in my car and paying for my own
Oh my
way,
goodness.
but you have to start somewhere. And
Yeah.
then that same company, a couple years later, I think it was probably maybe it was even a year later, it I got up the nerve to ask for money because I wanted to move to Summit County and I needed to pay rent and I wanted to devote my time to this, and I knew other people by then were getting paid, and I came in at, I really deserve $500 a month, and they said, the team manager was like, actually I was gonna offer you 7. And so I then exploded and I was off the races. That
The
was
clouds
it.
parted.
Like, I didn't have a lot of overhead. There were no cell phones, I split
Yeah.
utilities. I
Yeah.
did sleep on a couch in a basement in somebody's apartment, and that's all I needed. I didn't need a lot, but right about that time there were competitions paying money, and so I started making more money and started generating more sponsor income, in all the categories I could. And then yeah, I could take it from there. But the contests getting more exposure, there were always local contests, but when suddenly the X Games came into the picture, there was,
Change the world.
national television. It was live the
Yeah.
first year, and on TV. There wasn't YouTube then, and people saw it differently, and that including brands that wanted to be a part of it. So that created
There
more
was there was one, sorry to interrupt, but there was one phrase in one of the videos that you didn't say this, but it came up in an interview, and it was like there was one snowboarder. I don't know how well you knew her or whatever. She said, "I would die for this sport." And 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 I think somebody asked you about that, because, you know, when the X Games came out, because you had caught that wave luck. I mean, you were definitely in this pioneering place, and you were definitely writing the rules as you went. But the phrase was, you were gods among mortals. And you were like, no, I was not a god among a mortal. And, and that to me right there just shared, expressed to me how you were really holding it. And by the way, everybody, she has an amazing highlight reel on Barrett Christy CC, right?
BarrettCC.com. And I will
Barrett
be
C.
updating that too.
Yeah, Barrett's okay. Good. Taking out whatever you think is. I never saw anything you should ever be ashamed of. But people can see the highlight reel, and you're already giving us a glimmer into what's the thing about being that athlete that nobody sees, and that's the story behind what we see. And you're at the top of your game. You from other people's perspectives, you were gods among mortals. You were able to do unbelievable things that turn most people's stomachs and can't even watch because they can't believe you're doing that. But is there anything else that you would add besides, sort of like coming up with this sense of, it was a motivation, but through necessity, and you were ambitious, and once you found that strength, you were ready to rock and roll. Yeah. So, what else? Anything else?
Well, I think, and I thank you for pointing people to my website, but I'm hoping to update it with some of the projects I've been working on. And I've learned a lot in the last year about other people's perspectives that were at the same place at the same time as me, but experienced it very differently. And, it was out of necessity that I treated my work as a business, but I also understood that it was going to be important to know the businesses that were supporting me and who does what the roles were, and, how we could support each other as a sponsored athlete. Don't just go out there and rip. You want to be of value to the companies that are paying you, because that can generate more income or a longer career path. And I did not realize at the time, but I worked on a project this winter called Wayward, and it is not, I was a producer, so I helped make some connections and generate some funding for the project. But the woman that put this together is a lot younger than me, and she realized that most people don't know the history of the sport, and she wanted to focus on women's contribution to the history of snowboarding. And even some of my peers, listening to them be interviewed and talk about their experience, I mean, there were people who absolutely, it was a necessity. I knew I had solid parents, not with solid financial backing necessarily, but people that I could lean on if something, I could go home. I could always go back to Pennsylvania and sleep on one of their couches, but
It's good to have a plan B.
That was my plan B. But there are people that really did, like, when it became a business, everything changed. And when the sport and the role as a sponsored athlete became work, and the fun really was overshadowed by the necessity to make money and win the next contest, things changed, and it took people down different paths. And so I'm grateful that, I think attitude has a lot to do with it, because it's, how you experience that situation influences how other people see you, and how, your own personal perception of what's going on. And I did have a fairly positive outlook, even though I was saying negative things to myself. I was looking forward to what was all the
Isn't that
time.
funny? It's
Yeah.
like we have two brains. Oh, I'm just happy. And then you're like, you're so
Well, attaching the attitude to the outcome does not work. I needed to learn how to be happy even if I wasn't winning contests anymore
Mm,
and enjoy what I
mm,
was
yeah.
doing, even if I wasn't getting the recognition for it.
Okay, so this is a great place to make a little teeny tiny pivot. First of all, I just want to invite the audience to put a pin in a lot of what Barrett is talking about, because when we look at part of her world that's currently unfolding and been unfolding for a while, I just want to point out that you were at the top of your game, and yet at the same time you've got these very successful contracts and you're flourishing, maybe not every single day, but there's definitely a pattern and a positive path in front of you. So when did you first feel that quiet tap on your shoulder? Maybe that next thing asking for your attention, even though it looked like you had it all together, all under control, and the top of your game. Like, do you remember, was that a moment, a series of moments? What was starting to come into your awareness that maybe you hadn't expected, if there was such a moment?
Yeah, well, it was age. I mean, I was getting older and I already was older when I started certainly compared to today, but I was competing with some of my peers and my top competition and they were 5, 10 years younger than me. I'm still in my 20s, but it was starting to be obvious to me that, okay, what's next? Out of necessity, I did need to think about that because snowboarding did not create financial independence, lifetime financial independence for me. Maybe in part from some of the choices I made, but it wasn't the kind of money that would do that for most athletes, even the top ones. And so that tap on the shoulder, I think, getting hurt. I got hurt
Mm,
in the year 2000 and I had been only competing for 4 or 5 years, but
mm,
I did not I didn't come back from that until a year later, and it was a long recovery process, and I did have sponsor support, and I did have some, benefits that worked in my favor, but just every time I was lucky to have not gotten seriously hurt before that or more seriously hurt then, but realizing that I'm not invincible, that if I'm gonna keep pushing it, I am risking injury, and I am old enough to know that I want to be healthy and strong to continue to do this for fun afterwards and not have to
yeah,
wheel
yeah.
myself out there.
I mean, I would imagine, I mean, you want your brain, right? I mean, how
Yeah,
many
there's that
head
too.
injuries?
Wear helmets when
Oh
we
my
were
gosh,
doing it wasn't required. I mean, eventually it was
right?
required but it was not a habit.
Mm, mm. So, here you are as an athlete, and here you are now. Talk about a little bit about what this, you're aging, you're wanting to enjoy snowboarding. You have this awareness of business that you're cultivating, and you have these deeper relationships across brands. And then there's something else that starts to emerge for you. Can you paint that picture for us?
Yeah, there was a lot. That's a long time span actually, because I stopped competing around 2004 and
Okay.
so there's been a lot of ups and downs along the way since then. But because I did have an interest in the business and did have the opportunity as a writer to influence product design and to
Yeah.
sit in a room with the designers and give my feedback, as did the rest of the teams when I, had sponsors that were just supporting me to ride. I enjoyed that. And that somebody would listen to my opinion and make adjustments to equipment so that I could perform my best on that equipment. And so that really interested me. And regardless of whether I was winning contests anymore, I knew that I still had valuable input and still was very connected to the people that were winning the contests. And so, my sponsor, my very first sponsor, did offer me the opportunity to continue that development advisory role, just helping with the team and the marketing and to grow the women's program beyond my, heavy competition years. And I also had that opportunity with Nike, who was my sponsor from about 97 to, I mean, it's loosely defined as sponsor towards the end, but I stayed with them until
Yeah.
2012, I think it was.
Wow. Wow.
And,
A
you
lot of
know,
years.
as an advisor and as a consultant and as a connector to the next generation of athletes that were coming in and supporting the Nike programs that were relevant to snowboarding and action sports. And so that was fun for me, and I was able to weave in to understand the business in a deeper
Yeah.
level, but still have it pretty easy. I was not a full-time employee, did not get benefits, but I was able to maintain a level of income and maintain my self-employed status and just, I'm still marketing snowboard products and brands, but I no longer had to throw myself off at jumps and put my life at risk in competition in order to get paid. And so
That's sounding good. That's
yeah,
sounding good right now.
really good
Oh my God.
early 30s.
Wow. Wow. So what did you see in that world that your athlete brain recognized?
Well,
What was the bridge for you?
that's funny because first of all, the snowboard company, Mervin, GNU, LibTech, I say Mervin because that's the manufacturing overarching brand, but they are the polar opposite of Nike. But getting a chance to do that work with Nike, I realized that everybody that works there, most people had a competitive athlete background. The environment as an employee or as somebody working in the organization was very competitive. Not I mean, in a different way. Like they were high achievers, right? And they weren't necessarily trying to knock people out, but they were very competitive for the next role, the next promotion, the next big design that puts them
Yeah.
on the map.
They were going
So,
after it.
being around competitive people was something I was comfortable with, and I didn't
Yeah.
feel too intimidated by it. But I also recognized that, I had the opportunity to work with Nike, to be more an employee, to apply for some roles there, and then also had that same opportunity at Mervin. And for the life that I wanted to live and the time freedom I wanted to have and the location I wanted to be at with my soon to be husband at that point, I opted, to not take a role with Nike and to move up to Washington and be here and be closer to the snowboard company and, continue snowboarding and keeping it a little more.
2 kids?
2 kids. Yeah.
2 kids. 2 kids. So you've
Yeah.
built a life for yourself. You've had an amazing athletic career. You get to stay there. And so of all the things that you could have done next, here you are still just like, in the world, in just the ecosystem of all of that, the excitement and the language and the attitude and all that. What on earth had you pick financial education?
Well, in order to enjoy that freedom of time and to, afford to play in the mountains, we need money. And I
I've noticed.
got to a point where I realized that even though I had a great job and I had the freedom to snowboard and it was encouraged and I really could control my time, and that worked great when my kids were little, but I was pregnant with Cannon, my son, when I competed at my last X Games. I had just found out that, so I didn't do that well at that game. But in the meantime, 5 years later, we had our daughter Isla, and it was really good to be able to stay home and we made things work, and we still had, my husband still had sponsor income, and we were still able to travel and take the kids with us and enjoy promoting brands and projects. But I got to the point where I was like, I don't think that I'm saving enough to someday retire. And I don't want to be one of those people that does have to work until 70, 75 in order to finally afford that time freedom again. And you know, I had a financial advisor and had she had helped me. I still have the same financial advisor, but she had helped me with
Incredible.
my investment assets over the years and made the most, made sure she impressed upon me the importance of saving something even when you're not making a lot of money, like just be consistent with it. And I rode those markets up and I rode them down and back up again. And I'm very grateful for the work she did, but I also felt like, okay, there's got to be something else I can do that maybe
Okay.
is lying on someone managing to the best of their ability investment accounts for me. And it was 5.5 years ago now. It was COVID. We were all home working from home, and I had to take a pay cut at the time, and life was only getting more expensive with a 16-year-old at that point driving. And the cost of living continues to go up at a far faster pace than our paychecks do.
No
And that's
kidding. You
especially for
noticed.
action sports. I was on I was up here as an athlete and I was on a slow decline ever
Yeah.
since. And
Yeah.
so just the
I'm sure you're not
opportunity.
the only one
Yeah.
post retirement. It's just what happens, seems like.
And it's not it wasn't a comfortable feeling, and I'm driven. I wanted to keep learning something new. What can I do to make myself more valuable? And the people that are solving problems for others are the most valuable people, I think, in the workspace. And I felt like I needed to look beyond the space I was in to find something that inspired me that also fit with who I am. And I never
Mm,
would have thought
mm,
I'd find it in financial services, but I did reach out to people that I looked up to that I perceived as successful and started asking for some advice. And I was introduced to a woman who offered to sit down with me and take me through financial education, help me understand what I already had and, what my goals were, clarify what my goals were, and put some steps in place that I could understand, that I could clearly see were taking me closer to achieving those goals. And I was so impressed with the process. And I did have some extra time on my hands. And she said, I think you'd be really good at this. I will help you. I will teach you. I will help you get licensed. I will mentor you. And if you're interested, here's what you need to do next. And I did say yes and thought, well, at the very least, I will learn some more about how to help myself. I didn't identify as somebody who would be the expert just then. But I also realized that with everything I learned, there's so many more people in my community in similar ages and as well as young people who I wanted to help. I wanted to help them not make the same mistakes I made, and also through everything I was learning, realize that people don't know where to start sometimes, and they may not have the resources to attract a high priced financial advisor or
right.
portfolio manager if
Right.
they have a portfolio, but there are things they can do to help get started and to build that foundation on their own. And so yeah, I there's more
Wow.
to that story, but that's how I
Well, let
pivoted.
me ask you what. Yeah. So was the woman that trained you, was she with the company that you're with now?
She was with a different company, and so I learned everything from her, and she helped me build a business and build a book of business, but also helped me build an agency because she helped me, some of my close friends that were also looking for opportunities to make extra money
Yeah.
jumped in and took off, and they did really well with it. And so she helped train them too. But she helped me build something that is positioned to continue to grow with or without me. And I'm super
Yeah.
grateful. She actually made the move to another company a year ago, just over a year ago. And um, I was independent. I could do what I wanted, but I chose to move also. Our whole team moved over to this newer company, and I'm really grateful.
Wow. What's the name of it? If you can say.
Yeah, Vantage Financial Alliance. Well, I was going to try to tie in the fact that you and I have both been to Landmark Forum courses. And
Yes.
about that time when I was searching for, financial advice, but also career advice, I did sit through some courses, and the lessons that I learned there really made me realize that mentorship is so important, and mindset is so important, and personal development is so important. And no matter what you are trying to achieve, applying the principles, that I learned through Landmark to that next thing really helped me. And I was looking for identifying what you're looking for, and then identifying as the person that's already achieved those things helps you get there. But I was looking for mentorship. I thought I was looking for it so I could move up the ladder in action sports and find some place to be influential. But the mentorship I received in this industry was like, check the box. I was looking for that. I was looking for somebody that was invested in my success, that was not going to have to step on me to keep themselves up above me, and that and to being around people that are high achievers, that are doing great things, not just making money, but doing amazing things with their money. And so I kind of like fell into that environment and thought that this is a really great place to be in. And I'm so glad I did.
Well, I am too. And I wish I'd had your lady when my mom passed and I inherited a very small piece of change, but I had no idea I had no place to start. I got, one piece of advice and it turned out fine. But our relationship to money is a tricky one, and everybody's is different based on, how we grow up, how we grew up, on the way in which our parents talked about money or earned money or didn't earn money and all of that. And none of that is right or wrong, but it does shape us. And, to your point, how fortunate it is. But at the same time, when I think about who you are in the matter, I'm hearing two things. First, you have this commitment, almost like a lifelong commitment that you have been expressing intentionally or unintentionally, probably both, which is that, you want to mentor, you want to contribute to people. You want to save people the pain perhaps that you experience, which is absolutely something that you shared here. Something about how you have through your life ex- engaged in high risk activities. and our relationship to money is oftentimes like, I don't really want to give you this credit card, right? And every move that we make with our money is usually a risk if we're paying somebody for a service, right? But then there's something about that has been ingrained in you that you don't learn unless you take a risk. And you have been jumping off the mountain for quite some time in both metaphorical and in very, very real and scary ways. And it's really pretty incredible and very inspiring. So thank you for that.
Well, I think that I put snowboarding in a certain risk category, but with money, I am not risky. I was
You're not. Okay.
very conservative, and I always wanted, like, the fear of loss was a real thing with money. And I like what you said. I mean, my parents did not have a lot of money, and I had grew up hearing money is the root of all evil, and
Right.
a lot of arguments around money.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of tension around money. And they also, you know, somebody didn't teach them a lot of the things that would have benefited them, but it wasn't something that was talked about. And it was almost like not classy to talk about money in a way that was really educational, that would have helped a lot of us Gen Xers maybe not make the same mistakes many of our parents made. And so that culture, and that in the environment that I grew up in, that was kind of the culture. And I did learn, I did have some innate like caution around money and fear of loss. And so I did kind of hold it tight. I didn't go blow it on silly stuff. I don't think. It's as much as I could have when I was making money and not having a lot of
Okay.
expenses. But
Fair enough.
I think that it's all like you have to take risk, and sometimes that risk is learning something new and like seeing things differently than how society has painted the roadmap for us to work our whole lives and someday retire and cut down on our lifestyle needs, and
Yeah. Yep.
we'll be fine, and that's not the
Mhm.
case. We're seeing that unfold now
Yeah.
with so many people at retirement age not able to retire because the roadmap they were put on didn't provide for them.
Yeah. So true. I have a hard question though. Do you ever grieve being a snowboarder? I mean, I
No,
know that you're still snowboarding, but are you still in the middle of that, or you pretty much over
no,
that?
I'm so far past that. I love snowboarding, but maybe because my husband loves it to the degree that he will spend way more time on the mountains and he will chase the good snow and make clear everything in order to be there. And my son is a professional snowboarder. He snowboards all the time, and it's
Wow.
amazing we can all go together. And but
Yeah.
my goals in snowboarding are so different. If I get one good trip a year, I went to a place called Baldface Lodge in British Columbia at the end of the season this year. I knew it was coming. It was the end of the season, so the snow is not as predictable in April, and it could have been really bad, but I signed up to go to a women's retreat, and the whole lodge is filled with women. There's multiple snowcats filled with women, and everybody that's there is having an amazing time. They want to be there. They're all feeding
Ugh.
each other's energy. And to me, like, I'd take quality over quantity now, and I'm happy. If I know
Mm.
I have something like that coming up, that fills my bucket for snowboarding. And there's a few other things, but I'm a fan of it. I want to be around when my kids are doing things on their snowboards, and my husband.
Yeah.
I want to be at the events. I'm a big fan of X Games and the competitive athletes that are so impressive. And it's just that being around that energy, yeah, it makes me want to snowboard, but it doesn't make me grieve hitting those jumps because they're like,
Yeah.
I don't find as much reward in that type of fear and risk anymore.
Well, what I think you are demonstrating, and such an exemplary demonstration of, is that you are someone who didn't have to leave their passion behind and can still create this world and make a huge contribution to others and flourish at the same time. It's like you're still feeding that passion, and you're expanding that passion to include a lot of different kinds of experiences. And I'm curious if there was a part of you, though, that you had to give up in order to even hold those two commitments so strongly together.
Well, I know that I am driven to achieve financial independence, to have that time freedom, to have the free lifestyle choices that I'd like to have. And
Yeah.
I know that I got to put in the work. So right now I have worked more hours and spent more time on my computer on Zoom in the last 5 years than I ever had before. But that is a small price to pay for the opportunity I've been given and where I'm going. And so I know sacrifice. I know how to do it as an athlete. And I think that it's fun, like, being able to talk to people and learn from other people, but
Yeah.
also like meet people like you. I never would have met you if I had not gone down this path. I would not have joined the groups that we've been a part of. And someone had told me a long time ago, when I thought he was a total tool at the time, but he said your network is your net worth. And like
Mm.
that little address book that I carried around because we didn't have cell phones, like that, he looked at that and he's like, this is your net worth. This is what you're going to want to leave,
Mm.
as
Mm.
thinking
Mm.
about what's next. And I was just all, he was a finance guy. And I was like, that is not how I treat my people. But It's so true. And I enjoy building my network and finding out how we can support each other. And, you get back what you give out in multiples. And so,
And you don't have to objectify people to do it,
no.
I think is your point, right?
And I came into this career transition thinking, well, I will help all the athletes that I had been managing or mentoring or, supporting through snowboarding. Like, here's another way I can help them. But, but I found that I'm not staying in that lane. Obviously, I want to help everybody, but there are so many adjacent people that have, gotten to a point in their lives that also need help and don't have a place to start. And so
Yeah.
I've enjoyed kind of seeing where this path takes me and meeting new people and getting inspired and motivated along the way.
And I love it that you don't feel like you have to let go of the thing that really lights you up. So, I mean, I haven't. I mean, I still love comedy and dancing and
Yeah.
and all the rest. But here's what I want to do. I want to have just like a little bit of fun, do a lightning round
Okay.
of questions, and then we'll wrap because I could do this for at least another hour. And so you ready?
I'm ready. I don't know what's coming.
Okay. Okay. Just real short answers. Favorite trick you ever landed?
Backside 180.
Yeah, baby. Okay. First board or the first medal? Which one meant more?
First board. Having
Right.
somebody believe in me. Give me a board.
Contest. Got it. Contest run or powder day with friends?
Powder day with friends.
I knew the answer to that one. I saw it in my crystal ball.
Powder
Finish
day with
this.
family.
What?
Powder day with family.
Yeah. Finish this sentence stem. The mountain taught me
Independence and self-confidence.
sponsorship or prize money, which taught you more about your worth.
Sponsorship.
Best investment you ever made that wasn't money.
Insurance.
Spoken like a true financial professional.
It's true.
Offense or defense, building it or protecting it.
Sorry, I was still stuck on the last question.
That's all right.
Okay.
Offense or defense, building it or protecting it.
Building it. Offense.
Okay. Riskiest bet you'd make again tomorrow.
Getting married.
Nice. That's who you are. Spender or saver?
Saver.
Yeah. Finish this. Money is
Energy. Money is energy.
We're aligned there. Biggest money myth athletes believe.
That the money will continue to grow throughout their career and beyond.
Good one. Biggest wipeout on the mountain or in life? Your biggest wipeout on the mountain or in life? You don't
My
have to say what it is.
wipeout would be probably on the mountain.
Okay.
But the biggest wipeout in my life was on the road in a truck. I wasn't in it.
Ouch. Okay. I bet the truck won.
The truck.
Sorry to hear that. Ouch.
The truck.
Ouch. Oh my God.
It was supposed to.
All right. And last one, real wealth is blank.
Real wealth is giving more than you receive. Or maybe it's being able to give more than you receive. I don't know. You might have to hit me with that one again. I might have to think about that one.
Well, I'd be happy to pass it on. So I just want to bring something forward that you said in one of our conversations. You said you want to reach people before they have to transition. And that's exactly why we're doing this, to turn that now what from a crisis into it, or as my husband wanted me to say, from our now what to our now what, from a crisis into an invitation. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you are operating from a place of defense, like you said, you probably thought my answer was going to be defense, since insurance is important to me. But when you're operating
both and
place, you're not in control of the opportunities. And if you are Oh, I know there was a thread here. Sorry. If you are staying ahead of what's next, if you're thinking about what's next, if you're putting energy into who you want to become, and then you can put in the real work into how to become that person or how to achieve that goal. And if you wait until the career's over by choice or by necessity because you got hurt or sponsors dropped you, then you're going to be playing defense and trying to just grab a hold of anything that you can. I think it's so important for even for athletes that are still climbing to the top of their sport to think about what's next. Think about the things that you're good at and start identifying with the person you want to become, both on the field, so to speak, but then beyond that. I mean, if you want to maintain that level of confidence and leadership and as a top athlete, you have that. People look to you. What can you do? Like there's so much you learn from sport that can apply to other areas of business. And I wish somebody sat down with me 20 years ago with the opportunity I'm in now, because it is so, I mean, you can compete, you can apply those same strengths from being an athlete, the resilience, the mental toughness, doesn't matter if I don't
Focus.
out physically, but the focus, the leadership development, all of the things that make an athlete so committed and so good at top of their game. This business I'm in now, it's athletes do amazing in it. And I got in nearly 50 years old when I started doing this. And so I would encourage, whether it's this business or something else, like let's keep learning and not just put your head in a hole until you get buried.
So if, for the people who are listening here today, if you could tell them one thing that you would want them to do, the first thing that they would do next week, what would it be?
It would be to take a look at your financial roadmap, set a plan, where you're at now, where you want to be. No matter how big that goal is, there is a path to getting there. And with the work ethic and the commitment, you can achieve it. Believe you can achieve it. And all you have to do is look around to see it and believe it.
Yeah.
Start somewhere.
And believe it. And believe it. If you don't believe it, forget about
You're
it.
not around people that show you that that's possible, then you need to step up your environment.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Barrett, how can people get in touch with you?
People can actually reach me fairly easily on social media. My following is not massive. If I get a message, I read it. And so Instagram, Barrett CC. I'm not on Facebook as much. LinkedIn, trying to be on there quite a bit more, but that's the best way to reach me. And my bio has some contacts and some information about the work I do. And
Beautiful.
I look forward to hearing from
Thank you.
some.
Yeah, absolutely. Please reach out to Barrett. And it's Barrett with 2 R's and 2 T's, because not everybody knows that. And if I just had a moment here, we're doing this Unbound podcast as an opportunity to let people know about the Unbound Identity Lab. So if you're not in the place that Barrett described today, and you're maybe more in the messy middle, or perhaps you're aging out, or you're looking at a lifetime of pain from injury, and you want to start creating your life from your own sense of personal worth and values and purpose, I encourage you to click on the link to the community below that will be posted in this. And so with that, Barrett, it has been an absolute joy to spend this time with you today. I have learned so much, and makes me want to go look at a few spreadsheets and see how we're spending and maybe clean up
Let's do it. I can help you.
And she's with Vantage, and so is still Vantage?
Yep. Vantage Financial Alliance. Yep.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, with that, this has been just so rich and wonderful. So thank you so much. And I'm going to just say, please tune in when we'll probably air this in probably the third week of July. And I'm posting usually around Wednesdays. So really appreciate your likes or follows on Apple and Spotify. And we can also be reached on video and evidently now on Apple, but on YouTube, it's the Unbound podcast with Lori Darley. So thank you all and goodbye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Lori. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Sometimes growth means creating a completely new game plan for your life. So, if something in this conversation resonated with you, I invite you to open the Unbound Compass, a map designed to help you see where you are, what's shifting, and where you may be ready to expand next. Your old game plan got you here successfully, and the Unbound Compass helps you discover what comes next. It only takes about 5 minutes. And as always, thank you for joining us, and I hope to talk with you soon.